This, it is said, was the meditation cave of a 17th century German mystic who came to the wilds of America led by a mysterious prophecy about the end of the world. Hidden in the woods on the edge of Philadelphia, the cave still stands, along with a stone marker that commemorates its ancient inhabitant. But who was this man? What was the prophecy that guided him? And is there any truth to the rumor that he possessed a legendary magical object that could grant endless wealth and eternal life?
Kelpius was an interesting character. He was extremely bright, extremely sensitive, and in many ways very much ahead of his time, but he was also a little disturbed too. He was born in Transylvania, and he was orphaned at age 11. And then he was shipped off to Germany, where he graduated from a very prestigious university at age 16. Kelpius in Germany became involved with a group called the Chapter of Perfection, and it was led by a man named Johann Jacob Zimmermann, who was a very prominent astronomer.
Based on his observation of the stars, Zimmermann became convinced that the second coming of Christ would occur in 1694, and that the Chapter of Perfection must travel to the wilds of America to usher in a new spiritual age.
Just before the group was departing for America, he died, and he left young Johannes Kelpius as the leader of the group. So Kelpius found himself in a position of spiritual authority, and he was barely 21 years old.
He came over with a group of about 40 companions, and they settled along the Wissahickon Creek. They weren't very interested in labeling themselves. They weren't very interested in creating a new institution. They thought the end of the millennium was coming, so they arrived shortly before the end was supposed to take place, in the place where it was supposed to happen, but it didn't come, and now what?
The group continued to live in the woods, waiting for the end to arrive. They built a tabernacle where they provided free education to the children from nearby Germantown, practiced medicine, astronomy, botany, and some say alchemy.
The Philosopher's Stone is traditionally thought of as the goal of alchemy, the giver of eternal life and the element that could transform base metals into gold.
The general notion is that alchemy was about trying to change lead into gold. The true meaning is about transmuting our material way of seeing things into a spiritual gold.
Though Zimmermann's prophecy never came to pass, for Kelpius, the end of the world would come in 1708, when the long hours of meditation in his damp cave led to a fatal case of tuberculosis.
Kelpius did think that he would be taken directly into heaven. He didn't think he was going to die, and apparently he was very disappointed when he found out that he was just going to go like all the rest of us. And but there is a story about while he was dying.
He called his faithful assistant to his side, and he said, here is a box that I would like you to take down to the Schuylkill River and toss it in the river for me. And the assistant took the box, ran through the woods down to the river, and began to think that maybe the box held some great secret of his spiritual master. So he took the box, and instead of throwing it in the river, he hid it along the bank. And he came back to Kelpius, who lifted himself up off the deathbed and said, "You have not done as I had asked." And the assistant, trembling, runs down, takes the box, and when he throws it in the river, there's this great explosion because the box held the legendary Philosopher's Stone. And Kelpius felt perhaps that the world that was going to follow him wasn't worthy of the power of the Philosopher's Stone.
Kelpius was buried in an unmarked grave somewhere in these woods. All that he left behind were a few writings, a cave, and a mystery that endures.